What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. Just a quick live show to talk about David Bote coming back to the big leagues, Nick Madrigal going down, and wondering if this is the beginning of more moves for the Cubs, who struggled mightily all the way through the month of May, and then, of course, finally got a win to start the month of June. So like and subscribe. I'm Mick Gillespie. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Let's talk some Cubs baseball. Just a quick hitter right here on the Cubs Baseball Channel. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. And again, the Cubs and the Reds play today at 1:20. So the Cubs will try to get a victory in a series against Cincinnati and make it back-to-back games with a win. And the pitching matchup, Ben Brown versus Nick Lodolo. So we'll talk more about that. But let's just get into this right here. I don't know why it took so long for David Bote to get back to the major leagues. I mean, he's getting paid a major league salary. It's not like he embarrassed himself when he was in the big leagues before, but it's been since 2002 since he played in the major leagues. He's always about, like a 260 hitter somewhere in there. He hit 259 in 22. And then he's been in the minor leagues, and we've kind of expected him to get to the big leagues. He wasn't on the 40-man roster, but he's getting paid $5.5 million. And so the Cubs right now, I think this is the beginning of the Cubs trying to figure out something with the roster, trying to find a spark somewhere, trying to find somebody that can come in and give them a little bit of help off the bench, make the first move. Now, Nick Madrigal was optioned to Iowa. So I know some of you guys have gotten in the comment section and said, hey, designate him for assignment. Let's talk. I mean, Madrigal just definitely wasn't getting it done. A lot of soft contact. He's a double play waiting to happen. He doesn't run that great. He's okay, but he's not, he plays defensively good at third base. And when you take him and put him at third, that takes the Christopher Morel bat out of the lineup. And I don't know that his defense, with the way that the team's hitting right now, is even worth that move anymore. So David Bote can play third base. David Bote can play second base. He's got more pop in his bat than Madrigal. He's probably not as good of a runner as Madrigal, but maybe about the same. I say maybe not as good. I don't know, but I don't think that anyone's going to be blazing speed here between these two guys to get around the bases. I think Bote runs okay. But he can play some left field. Saw him in spring training, and he was actually out in left field working. So that gives you an option, kind of a utility guy. But Bote has power. You guys know that. He's hit home runs. He's had, had a great spring training. We thought maybe he might get a look by the Cubs, but he didn't. So it was kind of odd. Like, why isn't this guy getting an opportunity? And I think a lot of us were wondering that. Who did he make mad, and some of the responses that you guys had in the comments section when we talked about Bote were pretty funny. Jeff says it's about time Madrigal went down. Madrigal, I agree with you. It's you got too many other options in the organization, like we talked about on the last couple of videos, than to have guys that aren't producing and really don't give you a whole lot. At the big league level. Becky, you're right. Bote is back. Jeff, I hope that this is the start of turning things around. I don't know why it's taken so long. The roster moves have been odd to me. Ever since Nico didn't get put on the IL, you bring Vasquez up, you don't play him. Bote's not a shortstop, so don't think that he's a guy that you could put at shortstop. He doesn't have the range or the speed to play shortstop in my book. But he plays third. He's solid over there, solid at second base, and he'll get into some balls, right? But it's also the energy. Guys that are coming back up. Joe Madden was an expert at being able to manipulate the roster with young players that are just bringing a little bit of energy and fire to the clubhouse. Guys that really want to be there and that have something to prove. I thought about this, honestly, and I don't know that this is true or not, that Jed is holding on to Madrigal to prevent calling the Kimbrel trade a wash. Look, I know that could be something that a front office would worry about, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take up for Jed on this one. Madrigal was a really good player before he had that injury with the White Sox, and you wondered, how he was going to, respond to that. You gave him a couple of seasons to try to work through it and find the guy that was there before he had the muscle tear or whatever it was. And I don't think that you have to hide. I mean, you can't hide the guy, and so you put him on the roster. He's not getting the job done. There's other options. I don't know that trade is one that really comes back to haunt you. I mean, it's not like Kimbrel's he's on a different team every year. That's not one I'd worry about. It's when you make trades and you give up DJ LeMahieu and you don't get anything back. That's the kind of trade where you're like, I would kind of worry about that one, but I don't think that's the case on this one. Stole it breezing says Bote can hit the ball to the outfield on the pull side, unlike Madrigal. How about Madrigal's soft contact, doesn't strike out, but he hits fungo back ground balls to the infielders all the time. I mean, that's, and when you got men on base and there's a guy on third, they just move in and he rolls it right to him where you can't get him in. So George wants to know what was the roster move, and that's a great question. Basically, they put Adbert Alzolay on the 60-day IL, and that made room for Bote to come on. So we're not going to see Adbert for a while, and I figured that he's probably going to end up with surgery. Who knows? But that was the move. So here, Alzolay to the 60-day. And then Madrigal option back to Iowa. But I still think that the Cubs need Madrigal's 40-man spot for one of these other young players, and that it's time to move on from him. I think some of you guys would agree with that. It's not personal, but I just don't think that he can help. I don't think that anything he brings to the table is what this team needs to be successful, So kind of interesting, when you look at it. Now, on this channel, how many times did I talk about Pete Crow Armstrong last year and he hammered, hey, the guy can't play. How about his performance? How about him last night? How about the speed and the energy that he brings to the table? That's what this team needs. And we need about 3 other guys like that. It might not be a bad idea to start thinking about maybe Owen Casey, who's having a great a year again in AAA. And eventually, I've told you guys before, I'm going to reiterate this. He's taken that right field job from Seiya Suzuki. I know Suzuki had the grand slam last night, but put Suzuki at DH, right? I totally agree with you here. And bring up Owen. Why waste all the home runs and RBIs in AAA? He's going to be able to hit at the big leagues. Now, I don't know what his batting average is going to be like. Willie Mays struggled his first year with the batting average, but still hits 20-some home runs and won Rookie of the Year. You got to give these guys a chance, and that's why you have them. That's why you got them, is to bring them up and give them an opportunity. Another great point, catcher. There's nothing in the system as far as catching goes. So you're right. And Pablo Aliendo, who I thought was probably your best catching option, got hit on the hand and is out for a while. Has to let his hand heal up. Probably a broken bone. So, they are going to have to draft or trade for catching. Or trade and maybe get somebody that can help you now. But unfortunately, Yan Gomes just can't hit anymore. At least he hasn't this season. He's 37 years old. And I've talked about it before. Never been a big believer that, that Amaya was someone that you could really count on behind the plate. He didn't show me that in the minor leagues, and he's kind of that player now in the big leagues. And I don't think more at bats, more time behind the plate is going to make a difference. I think he is what he is. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to think about. Now, Tom says bringing up Bote, showcasing him for a trade. He's paid $5.5 million. I mean, the Cubs are going to have to pick up that contract if they did trade him. But I wouldn't be surprised if look, everything to me has got to be on the table with this. And that's why I did this pop-up show. Is that they've got to put everything on the table right now. It's good to see Dansby Swanson hit the ball finally last night. It was great to see Seiya Suzuki redeem himself after the drop ball. His defense is like this. You just don't know what to expect out there. Love to see Pete Crow Armstrong running and down balls and how much ground he covers. And those are those games when you sit around in the clubhouse forever waiting on the game to start, and then you go out there and bring that kind of energy. I thought both teams brought energy in that game last night. The Reds smelled blood in the water, and the Cubs just turned them away. But look, if you're the Cubs, you got to get a catcher. You got to get bullpen help. You got to get guys that can help you come off the bench. And I don't know what the situation is with Michael Busch, but he's definitely scuffling. He's trying to figure out this league. We saw what he can do, but maybe is Pete Alonso a guy that the Cubs would be willing to go get from the Mets? How much would you have to give up to get him? And how serious would they be to go get Pete Alonso? I could see him being someone you signed and have the polar bear on this team in the future and to put him right in the lineup. I mean, they made the trade for Busch, and I'm not giving up on Busch yet, but what I'm saying is that they're going to have to do a lot of stuff if this team's going to really contend for a World Series. And last night's game, I thought, was a good step forward as far as, finding a little bit of footing after just playing horribly bad. I mean, we're really, and I shouldn't say horribly bad, bullpen awful. And every time you turn a lead over to them, you just don't know what you're going to get back. Now, the other thing is this, is that they need the 40-man roster spots for some of these guys in the minor leagues they've got that can pitch to see if someone can come up there and get some outs. There's a guy in Double-A that's got an amazing mustache, and he hasn't given up a run. He's throwing strikes. He looks like he's got good stuff. Frankie Scalzo Jr. I mean, why not take a look at him? Why not take a look at some of these other guys? They signed a couple, almost, I want to say like 8 to 10 minor league pitchers. There were guys that some of them pitched in the big leagues in the past. And, but you've got to give Craig Counsell more options out of the bullpen. And if you're not going to use the guys in your system to do it, then why even have it? There's a lot of talk about eliminating minor league teams. And if you're not going to use the players you have in the minor leagues, then why don't you do that? If you're not going to go look at your stable of young arms and say, hey, this guy might be able to help us or not. I mean, this would be a time that you would certainly want to do that. So, we'll find out there. I'm trying to look through here. Neris makes us all nervous. But at least he, at least he gets the job done. Remember when he had the clubhouse speech and everything after a nice win? It seems like they've lost every game since then. I know they haven't, but it just feels like that the timing of that kind of coincided with, with this team not doing too good. Any update on Cade Horton? He had a tight back. I heard he's going to be okay. And I know it's not he didn't throw 100 pitches, and I guess if you throw over 100 pitches in this day of baseball, your arm falls off. So his arm isn't going to fall off. He didn't throw 100 pitches, but, certainly a guy that they're going to take a lot of time to get back. So here's a question. Tom says, what about, but would like to see Brennan Davis. I don't think Brennan Davis is going to, I just don't think he's going to pan out. I'm surprised they've kept with this long with him on the 40-man. Although I got to tell you, I was also shocked that he was like the hottest player in baseball before he got hurt again. But I just feel like his time's kind of about to come to an end. He's a guy that you could trade to. Maybe he goes somewhere else and gets a shot. But I feel like the guy that they ought to be looking at is Owen Casey. I think he's the next guy. better defense than Seiya Suzuki. The ball jumps off his bat like he's hitting with one of those red wiffle ball bats that you give your kid to learn how to hit the ball for the first time. Yeah, that's a guy that you could bring up. Cubs got to stop being so afraid of going out and giving young players a chance. If you think that if this was Tampa Bay or Baltimore or some of these other teams, that they would stick with Morel. I mean, not Morel, but Wisdom and Madrigal and all these guys, and not see what some of these young guys can do. Luis Vazquez is someone that we didn't even get to see. He got to the big leagues, and literally a cup of coffee. And some of you guys think that the coffee is the reason why the Cubs are having so many issues with injuries. Adbert, love your picture there, and good afternoon to all you guys as well. Let's talk a little bit about while everyone's here and hanging out. Let's talk a little bit about last night's game. I mean, what did you guys think of Seiya Suzuki? I thought that it showed a lot of promise after making a big mistake to come back and make up for it with the grand slam. I really like him. I do. I mean, I don't like him in the outfield defensively compared to Owen Casey, who I think is much better. But I like him in the lineup. I like what he does. I like the energy that he brings. Hopefully this is a sign that he's getting healthy. Cubs got to hit home runs to win. And when they're not hitting home runs, they're having a tough time scoring. They finally went deep last night, and that's going to be the difference for these guys moving forward. Are they going to be able to hit home runs and score that way? Because manufacturing runs is something that the Cubs really haven't done a good job of in a long time. Like, hey, let's get a guy on first. We'll bunt him the second. That's why a Pete Crow Armstrong is so valuable to them. Talked about this a little bit, but look, I mean, Merriweather, July, Alzolay is going to the 60-day IL. Who knows when they're going to backdate that? Yancy Almonte is out as well. So going back to options that you have in the minor leagues, they need to figure out what they're going to do or obviously, make trades. And there's a lot of scouts. I'm going to leave you guys with this. There's a lot of scouts that are at the minor league games right now that are watching the Cubs' talent. They're in Iowa. They're in Tennessee. They're at Myrtle Beach. They're at South Bend. Teams are keeping an eye on what the Cubs have because they're going to be one of the teams that are going to be active at this trade deadline, I'm guessing. But the balancing act for the Cubs is how do you make deals where you get what you want from another team without giving up your elite guys? James Triantos and Owen Casey, those guys to me would be untouchable. They're as close to can't miss big leaguers as you have out there. But if you could get a catcher, if you could get some relief pitchers, maybe and talking about Jordan Wicks, yeah, he's pitching today in Iowa. They're going to reevaluate Wicks after today in Iowa. So it's a really important day for him to go out there and have success because that may give you another option. And I'm curious to see if they put Wicks in the bullpen, or would Wicks be someone that would be expendable? Because if the Cubs traded a starting pitcher to get some help, maybe a catcher and a legitimate bullpen arm, then I think there's another team out there that's probably going, hey, we could give up that to have some help with the starting pitching. Cubs are deep starting pitching wise, and you guys know that. Here's a good one right here. Let's talk Morel for a second. Just isn't reading it at the plate. I still feel like his foot's bothering him. I feel like his foot's bothering me. He just hasn't looked the same since Atlanta. He had that 13 pitch at bat. He fouled it off of his toe. They hit him in the foot the next game. Hopefully it's healed up. Bobby Dernier told me one time, he said, "You're never healthy." He said, you leave spring training and you're hurt and you stay hurt the whole year, so you got to play hurt all the time. And that's part of playing baseball every single day, and that's why it's so important that guys take days off. Like I think that they ought to just incorporate Dansby Swanson having off days because he's not Cal Ripken. He needs the rest. But there's only a couple guys that can play every day and be productive. And honestly, if you watched Cal Ripken's career, he went through a lot of times where he struggled because he tried to play every day, played through all these injuries. So I think Morrell's dealing with that right now. That's a gut feeling. Nothing confirmed. They wouldn't tell you that, but I'm not so worried about Morrell. I think eventually he's going to be back. Here's Tom saying, you always give up who you have a better option for. Sure, Triantos is a hitter, but defensively he may end up in the outfield, and we have plenty of those. Give me Shaw. I look, man, I've seen Triantos play a lot, man. I'm telling you, the guy's really good. His bat-to-ball skill is elite, and not many people can hit the damn ball anymore. I mean, it's unbelievable. You look at all the strikeouts in the game. Estrada, who pitched in the Cubs system and now is with the Padres, struck out 13 straight batters. He's got good stuff, but man, he's not Roger Clemens or Nolan Ryan. The game's turned into everyone trying to hit home runs and a lack of contact. Triantos is a pain in the backside because it's really hard to get him out. And I feel like he's got a really bright future. And I would love to see that as an option with the Cubs. I mean, look how this year, would you have thought that Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner would all be out at the same time? Bellinger and Suzuki were out in the outfield. You've got to have depth. But the other thing is that you can't be so afraid of giving these young guys an opportunity to go up there and fail. Some of them might succeed. You love this one. It's not over yet with Nelson Velasquez. He could be Manny Ramirez, but it's not this year. Look, I'll give you some. This is my thoughts on Shaw. Shaw is a good hitter. He was in college last year. I think that he's actually having pretty competitive at bats. He walks a lot. He gets on base. Defensively, he's a good player. I just think that this is the year where he's learning how to play every day. And going back, just talking about Bobby Dernier, I remember him talking about this kind of in the same thing. He's like, you play every day in the minor leagues so that you learn how to play every day in the big leagues or a lot, I just feel like this is when you're in college, you play like 50 games. We're already at in baseball, 40 some game mark, and we still aren't even halfway through the season. So Shaw's going to get better. I'm confident, but if I was the Cubs and I could get the right package back, he's going to bring a lot of value. And that would be a guy that I would say, hey man, you know what? I hate to give him up, but if I'm getting what I need back in return, he's expendable in my book. That doesn't mean he's not going to be a great player somewhere else. That's just my opinion. But I really like him. I think he's a good player. And I think that when he's not hitting, the fact that he's still selective at the plate, he's still drawing walks, his on-base percentage is still up there, and that he doesn't take his struggles at the plate into the field, I think that's something too. He's a danger every time he gets up. He's definitely somebody that you circle in the lineup. So anyway, yeah, look, here's a trade that the Cubs could do with the White Sox. Michael Kopech. Love Michael Kopech. Always have, man. I don't think he's hit his potential at all yet. I think he's a guy that could be, one of these Andrew Miller type guys, that come up with all the hype and then have some woes and then figure it out and swing back. The Tom Amansky videos. Fred McGriff. Remember Fred McGriff on those? He needs to learn his defensive skills. Well, look, guys, thanks for hanging out. Just wanted to pop on and talk about David Bote getting back to the big leagues. Here's what I think. I think this is the first of more moves. I think this is the beginning of the front office trying to figure out what they can do. This one's a small one to me, but I think that they're going to have to look at what they have in their system, and they're going to have to take a chance on guys like Owen Casey to help out. Because if they can't score runs, and I know they did last night, but there's a lot of days where they're not scoring. I'd rather see him up there wailing away and trying to figure out how to hit big league pitching than watching, Patrick Wisdom, who we know is plateaued out. We know what he does. We know what Nick Madrigal does. You got a budding star with Owen Casey. Hey, give the guy a chance, or let's see some other guys. But David Bote's back, which is crazy that it took this long, and hopefully he has a big game. I want to see him running around with another home run like this. Let's see if he can hit another golden home run. But look, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to do a call-in show probably tomorrow and get you guys on. We'll talk about it, see where the Cubs are then. Thanks for hanging out. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Get in the comments section. Let's talk some Cubs baseball. I'm feeling a lot better after a late night, staying up, watching them pull it off. So let's see if we can do it again. Go Cubs.